Well, thank you for being here. I have a presentation that is, the title is in English, the presentation is in Portuguese, but I will kind of translate during the presentation too, so I apologize for that. I'm here on behalf of my co-authors, Wagner, Carvalho, and Flavia, Cavazotte, both from Rio de Janeiro. I am Valter Moreno. I teach at University of Rio de Janeiro, or Rio de Janeiro State University, and Ibmec, also in Rio de Janeiro. In the engineering department there, but I mostly work with information systems. So the presentation is about dynamic capabilities and B&A capabilities, business intelligence, and the impact that they have on performance. In our case here, we're going to be talking about the performance of business processes, business process performance, not organization performance. And the basic idea came, of course, from the whole trend that we have in analytics, and we have Wagner worked for a company in Brazil, a very large telecommunications company, and he was in charge of the BI area in that company. So we had the opportunity to actually get in touch with people that use the BI systems all over Brazil and try to understand how they use the system and the kind of benefits they actually got from that usage. So the problem is that the literature is not really clear as far as how the investments in BI actually translate into business value. Lots of people are investing in BI all over the world. This is a node figure here, $16.9 billion. In 2016, this is increasing exponentially, but the business cases, the construction, elaboration of business cases to make the case for investments in BI, it's kind of hard because you have a lot of intangibles associated with implementation. But in our case, we were trying to create a connection, explain how investments in BI translate into business value. Okay? So we use the resource-based view, and I'm going to translate a little bit what's written here in Portuguese. We believe that the main way BI and analytics can help a company is to improve decision making, to help people actually make better decisions, understand better what is going on within and outside the company, and therefore make better and more informed decisions. So these decisions usually lead to changes in the way the company works. So for us, a major component of these equation, let's say, that connects investments in BI to business value is what we call dynamic capabilities, which is it's related to the resource-based view developed in the 90s and before that too. But dynamic capabilities are just, think about them as capacity that companies have to change themselves, to understand what is going on outside the company, bring new knowledge, bring new ideas, new knowledge to the company, mix this with whatever they already have, figure out what they have to do to change and become more competitive, and then implement these changes. So dynamic capabilities is just like, you could think about it as a capacity to change, okay? But change in a way that leads to competitive advantage. So in our case here, we thought that dynamic capabilities would be like the core concept or a mediator between investments in BI and the results in terms of operational and organizational performance, okay? So our hypothesis, we start with the concept of dynamic capabilities, and it has, usually you see, depending on the author, you have dynamic capabilities represented with 3 major dimensions, or sometimes 4. So in our case, we use 4 dimensions, which is capacity to understand what is going on outside a company, like I said, to scan the environment and identify threats and opportunities. The second one is to learn about, or to bring knowledge about this environment, and whatever you need into the company, and combine this knowledge with whatever you have. Then to actually develop these new alternatives and plan to integrate them into your operations. And finally, coordinate the deployment of these alternatives into your operations. Okay, so most cases, most papers, you will see people arguing. Okay, sorry. Yeah, people arguing that dynamic capabilities are a major antecedent of competitiveness. It's a very important, especially in environments that are very volatile. This is an important concept. So, like I said, based on the literature, we can argue then that dynamic capabilities have a direct and positive effect on the results, the performance of your organization. In our case, we were looking into a specific type of result, which is related to the operations of the marketing areas of this company. So I'll talk a little bit more about the company in a while, but basically we are dealing with a telecommunications company, and in Brazil we have a very turbulent environment because not only because of the technology, telecommunications technology, it's changing all the time, but also because of the economic, social, institutional environment that we have there. So this is a very large company, and it has a lot of different branches all over Brazil. And the focus of our study was then on the performance of these units in each city or state that were trying to actually increase the revenues of the company, increasing sales, getting more customers, and so on. So it's a very important component as far as the result, the bottom line of a telecommunications company is concerned. They have to advertise all the new plans that the company has, all the new types of promotions that you have, and so on, to get much more, increase your customer base and reduce churn, like people leaving the company, the customers leaving the company. Okay, so the first hypothesis is that dynamic capabilities will have a positive effect in the results of these types of key processes in a company. These effects of dynamic capabilities, also based in the literature, they will be stronger when you have a turbulent environment. The more turbulent the environment is, the stronger the effects of dynamic capabilities on performance or competitiveness will be. So this is also coming from the literature. There's not much new, anything really new here. Now, what we did then is to try to explain the availability or development of these dynamic capabilities in the company based on how they actually use, for instance, their business intelligence and analytics systems. So we had then to create, actually we adapted the concept of BI and analytics capability. So we got something from the literature. It was actually a paper presented in, I think, AMCIS. Was just a proposal of a scale to measure business intelligence and analytics capabilities. And we adapted this scale, we further developed the concept, the construct, and then we proposed that the stronger this capability is in a company, the stronger or the more developed their dynamic capabilities will be. Why is this? Because of course BI, one of the major advantages of implementing business analytics and business intelligence is to be able to really understand what is going on in terms of KPIs, indicators, whatever, outside the company, to make predictions about what is going to happen, create scenarios, even depending on the maturity of the company. You can also think about not only predictive, but also prescriptive business analytics. So it's a natural connection there with that capacity to understand what is going on outside, scanning the environment, and
it will appear. It will show. Yeah.
Okay, let's see if it. No,
No.
it's really very fine. Sorry for that. Let's see if it works. If I reconnect.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I really cannot believe. away from this computer. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so. All right, sorry for that. So, based on the information you get and the types of scenarios and experiments you can do with analytics nowadays, you can use this knowledge or data to derive information knowledge, for instance, and then create new products. You can figure ways of addressing different types of customer segments. So all of these changes involve changing their structure, the resources and capabilities that the company uses. And this is what dynamic capabilities are about. So our third hypothesis then was that dynamic capabilities would mediate completely the effects of the BI capacities on the performance of operational marketing processes. And this is the model we test. So here, the three main constructs: BI, resources and capacity. Oh man, I didn't even touch it. Come on.
This has been happening all day.
Really?
It's a problem with these
It's not
cables.
personal.
and
Cable,
projectors.
not a laptop. Yes.
Okay,
It's not my laptop, it's the cables and the projector.
Yeah. We should figure a way of innovating and getting rid of cables. This would be like a major innovation of our century, right?
We have it on our campus. There's a dongle you plug into the USB
Uh-huh.
that sends it wireless to the big screen display.
There you go. No, we need this.
But
would
then you
help
have to install the drivers for it, so it never works.
Okay, so we have the three main constructs, the three main hypotheses. This is this hypothesis here. As you see, there is a dashed line here. What it means is that we are predicting that the effects of the investments of or the availability of BI resources and capabilities on performance will be transferred or transmitted entirely through the dynamic capabilities of the company. And this is a major, very strong assertion. So, but we really, based on looking, of course, you have the paper. We made a good argument for that. These rectangles that you see here, they are dimensions of the main constructs, and we had here for dynamic capabilities, we have those 4 dimensions that I mentioned before. The BI resources and capabilities were related to the structure, operations, and the team, the BI team that provides support for the company. So the structure means what kind of hardware, software you have, everything that is related to hardware, software, network equipment, everything, sensors, everything else. The operation is just like the maintenance of how well the B&A solutions work, and of course you have the team to provide support for the key users in the company. Here you have a moderator, which is a turbulence, and this is related to the hypothesis that I mentioned. The stronger the turbulence, the stronger the effect of dynamic capabilities would be on operational marketing capabilities. And the operational marketing capabilities were measured with 3 dimensions. We're talking about technical capacity, capacity to understand the customer, and managerial capacity. Okay. All right, and we also control for those variables, which is yes, I mean, okay, the time that the people, the respondents, who were in the company, for how long they have been in the company, the size of the area, and the diversity of the team, the marketing team. So we went to this company, this large telecommunications company, and asked people that work in these different marketing areas all over the country to answer the questionnaire. And then we aggregate these. So our analysis was at the team-based level, the area-based level, okay? We got 187 managed areas, let's say, and this company had 187 marketing areas and 1,224 employees working there. After we got the data and cleaned the data, removed outliers and so on, we got 42 groups of 42 observations in our analysis. We used partially square PLS, which is a structural equation modeling technique, to analyze data. This is just like the measurement model, some of the indicators or indexes that we have here. Everything kind of looked fine. And in the end, these are the hypotheses that were actually supported. We have here the two main hypotheses were supported. So we have a direct effect, positive direct effect from BNA capacities on dynamic capabilities, and a strong direct positive effect of dynamic capabilities on marketing performance. The effect of turbulence, the mediation that we predicted, was not supported. So in the end, what we learned then is that the investments, or by making available BNA resources in companies, what they actually the way this actually generates value is through the types of changes, the capacity that the company has to make changes in its own resources and capacity, the way it works, the people that are there, everything else. So if you're actually investing in BI, you have to make sure that you develop the necessary dynamic capabilities. Otherwise, your investment will not translate into additional business value. This is a very interesting finding because, like I said, we predicted that it would be total mediation, which means basically that there is no other way BNA investments will translate into business value if not through the dynamic capabilities of the firm. Okay. Just one more thing here. We did not have support for the mediation effect, but we had a very small sample. We had like 42 observations, which is a very small sample. So it's possible that we didn't have enough power, which I actually didn't calculate the power of the statistical test that we performed. But of course, with 42 observations, it's a very small sample. This is a strong possibility. Anyway, this is just like the results, a graphical representation of the results that we got if we believe that the estimated coefficients were actually a representation of what is there in the population. And as you can see here, for in our case, the line for low turbulence is actually more inclined, steeper than the line for environments, for areas of the company that operated in a less turbulent area. What we understood then is that in our case in Brazil, there's so much turbulence that companies are struggling to survive and deal with them. They're cutting costs, they're firing people, they are reorganizing all the time. So if you have an environment that is changing all the time, and internally the company is also constantly changing just to survive, it's very hard for the company to translate these investments in BI in business value because they don't have the necessary resources and the stable structures to actually use these for the benefit of their marketing processes. So that's basically what this means. If you have a high turbulence environment, it's harder to translate BNA investments into business value than if you have a more stable environment, okay? Which is a surprising conclusion. But this is only to the extent that this turbulence is actually making the company internally change all the time, all right? And this is the case there in Brazil, and specifically in this company. So that's basically it. I think I'm out of time. I had some final suggestions here for future studies, but of course, one of the things that we have to do is to get more data, different places, different companies, different contexts, and so on. And maybe longitudinal studies would be interesting also. Thank you very much, and don't forget that next year we hope that you will be in Cancun, and it'll be a great pleasure. All right, thank you. Very happy.
Questions, please? Hi, I'm congratulations because I'm in this
in research. I remember that last month ago I talked with the Valencia University, and they work with the dynamic capabilities because it's really new, no? The constructor and ideas and this evolution in order to connect with the different goals to research, but the constructor I think is similar. The dynamic capabilities in management and BI and dynamic capabilities like idea. When I heard your presentation, and I remember that I worked to literature review about the human capital. And my question is, maybe you say it, but it's difficult for me identify the difference or is different viewed to do the human capital dynamic capabilities, because when you explain some part of the dynamic capabilities mentions some maybe you mentioned similar constructor that the human capital, for example, that heterogeneity of the group and of the team, knowledge, specific skills, and mention the group, maybe this capability dynamics. For example, I remember. And Cooper mentioned that the coordination of the team, or integrate the team, or different ideas or knowledge or skills, and something like this. I don't know is that dynamic capabilities more different to the human capital ideas? Is connections? Is complementary? What do you think about this?
Well, I think there's a lot of people from different tribes, let's say, talking about the same thing using different names. And this usually happens a lot in our fields, right? So, for instance, I'm doing research which is conceptually I could place it within the dynamic capabilities framework or theory. And the name of the basic construct is managerial dynamic capability. So my wife works in organizational behavior there. And when I read everything about managerial dynamic capability, I said, well, this is exactly what she's been talking about. And people have been talking about for 70 years, almost 100 years now, right? And when you went back, these new constructs, let's say, there's not really anything new there. And so my feeling is that people are coming from different places or different backgrounds. So these guys here, they're coming from the strategy background, economics and strategy background. And they don't talk with people from organizational behavior or whatever. So they create their own constructs without reading the literature on, for instance, organizational behavior and people and so on, human capital, knowledge management, whatever. And there's a lot of overlap. So should we actually clean up? Should they actually clean up their act and get together and say, okay, let's agree on a specific construct that will cover everything? It would be great, but I don't think this will happen because everybody is kind of defending their own turf and saying what I do is better than what you do. So, but I agree with you. So there's a lot of confusion, and in the end, in this research that we are doing there, we are looking into an IT company that was able to be successful during the worst crisis that Brazil ever had. And their main customer was the largest oil company in Brazil. And they drastically reduced all contracts. So these guys live basically on this company, and in 3 months they cut their expenditures with these contracts by, I don't know, 70%, something like this. And even though they were in this type of very hard environment, they were able to be successful and actually grow. So we went to this company and tried to understand how they changed over time. And we were using this concept of dynamic managerial capabilities. And I asked my wife afterwards, and say, what do you think about this? She said, but this is nothing new there. So we'll never get this published in organizational behavior. I said, well, thank you. So for us from the IS side, from IT, it was new and interesting. For them, it's not that much novelty there to actually justify publication. But I agree with you.
Another question? Yeah, I am thinking about also in terms of absorptive capacity, because I think it's very related to that
I
concept.
totally agree. And this is another thing. There are people that say that absorptive capacity is a type of a dynamic capability. And other people say that, no, it's different. And again, the same thing, right? The organizational, the absorptive capacity people were not from strategy originally. They are calling Leventhal. They didn't publish this stuff in Journal of Strategic Management or anything like this. So, but what I believe is that the only thing that really, although the structure of the construct and the processes behind the absorptive capacity construct are a little bit different, but the only thing that I think distinguish one from the other is that in absorptive capacity, the outcome is innovation. It has to be an innovation. There's nothing here about innovation. They don't talk about innovation, they talk about change. So, for instance, if you restructure your company by divisions by, for instance, geographical regions or something, it's a change, so it has to be related to dynamic capability. Afterwards, you say, well, this wasn't a good idea, let's go back and centralize everything. It's another change, and it's to do this, you have to have dynamic capabilities. But this has nothing to do with absorptive capacity, in this case specifically. So you may be reacting to what is going on in your environment and changing your company in different ways, but not actually innovating at all. And the concept of dynamic capability will allow you to try to explain what's going on in this type of situation, or not absorptive capacity. This is my view, but maybe totally wrong.
Okay, thank you very much.